Welcome back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. I'm your host, Scott Lips. My guests today are one of the most exciting rock bands of the past 2 decades. Formed in 2006 as part of the Warped Tour scene, the music has been described as progressive post-hardcore. Their latest album, Jaws of Life, was released in 2023 to critical acclaim. Please welcome to the show, Vic, Tony, and Jaime of Pierce the Veil. Welcome back to Spin Magazine's Lip Service. Welcoming the members of Pierce the Veil, Vic, Jaime, and Tony. Welcome, guys.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Thanks for coming up. I don't know if you flew. You're saying you flew from San Diego, which is awesome.
Ran really fast.
We did. Yeah, our booking agent, he's a pilot, and it was, he was like, "I'll fly you guys. We'll get there in 20 minutes."
It took longer to get here in the Uber than it did the flight.
It did.
Yeah, 100%.
We were just chatting, me and Vic. I'm like scared of flying, and then you see everything going on in the news with flying. You're like, I'm never getting on a plane again. I'm taking a bus back to New York next week. I don't know, how do I get there?
That's
awesome. My wife was not stoked.
Oh, really?
That
we
we
were
were flying. Yeah.
It's actually really safe, to be fair. It's very safe.
I tried to hit her with the set. It's like a billion times more dangerous for me to drive.
Yeah, 100%.
But it is a joyous occasion because Tony's birthday. You just had a baby, Vic. Not you, your wife. But
yes.
Pretty amazing, right?
You look great for having a baby.
You do.
You did it. Yeah, we had a baby.
This is your second
This
kid,
is my
right?
second child.
Yeah.
I got a 2-year-old daughter
Third
at home,
counting me.
and then Jaime.
Take
But
care of
my son is 9 days old now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. Do you call your rock star friends when you have a new kid and say, "How do I do this?"
I do actually.
Do you?
Yeah, I used to before I had my first, I would pick the brains of my friends who have done it. Like I remember asking Brad from Third Eye Blind. I remember asking Mike from MXPX. Like,
How do you
just
do it?
trying casually, like, hey, so how does it work? When you have
You're
when
touring
you're
dad.
touring and you have kids, and how do you make it work? And I remember Mike was like, your wife has to be really cool. And I was like, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
But
She is. She's way cooler than you.
yeah, I do confide in my buddies who have kids.
Awesome.
For sure.
Well, thanks for being here. I know we tried to do this a while ago. I think when you were on tour in New York, because you were opening up for Blink, and we did try, but I think it's hard. You're getting sick on the road, and it's hard to do stuff other than that. So how was that tour, by the way? I'm sure it was incredible.
That was amazing. Yeah. It's
Talk about setting the bar high. Those
so
guys really kind of blew our minds with how kind they were and how to do a tour of that scale, because it was we played like football stadiums. We played like Fenway. Like, it was insane, but they just took it to a new level, and they couldn't have been more nice.
I didn't realize the banter that went on between them because I went to the show, and it's almost like a comedy act, right?
It's-
I mean, it's
That's that's 100% part of the show.
yeah. I mean, half of the show, I felt like they were just like bagging on each other and telling jokes.
Yeah.
Right? It's sort of like, but what was the experience like for y'all? Because I mean, that was the first time I imagined playing like arenas, right?
Yeah.
It was first, we played arenas, maybe not that kind of arena, because there's arenas and then there's
Arenas.
Then there's
the
Blink
ones that
arenas.
go- They
Yeah.
just keep going up.
Like
And-
football stadiums.
Yeah, we've never done
They're
anything
it was
like
like
that.
NBA arenas. Like, we've never done that. We've done like smaller, like minor league hockey arenas.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, those
played-
are stadiums, really,
Yeah.
right? At the end of the day. So
We played an indoor stadium in Toronto. That was
that was
wild.
great. Where the Blue Jays play. That was like, I think that was more. I was more impressed with just like the structure. I'm like, how did they build this?
It looked like we were in like the Death Star or something
Yeah.
like that. It was wild.
Is it harder for you to connect with the audience when you're that big a venue?
Oh my God, I don't know.
It's definitely different, and people are far away, so that part of it's kind of weird, but you can still find people to connect with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's what you lose there, you gain in just the massive amount of people that are behind all of that. So
Well, the first thing I wanted to discuss with you, I just wanted to tell you what an incredible version of Karma Police you did, because it's so hard to like, I dare say even maybe beat the original. I don't even want to say that, but your version of that song, like, it's definitely one of those covers that's as good as the original, which is really hard to do, especially with Radiohead. So was it a little bit daunting? Because most bands covering Radiohead, you're like, I'm not going to cover Radiohead. It's just too difficult.
Don't do it.
But you did an incredible job, and it's an incredible version. I'm sure the feedback. I played that song for like heads of record labels, and like, who is this? It's so incredible. Did you feel like it was challenging to cover a band like that, because it's such an incredible version of the song?
I'm just gonna slip
Thanks,
you a 20
man.
right now underneath the table.
I
Just,
appreciate that.
thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, I think you just really have to love the song first, and that's one of my. It might be my favorite song like ever. It's one of my. It's in the top
It's up
5
there.
for me for sure, and so yeah, that makes you want to really do it justice, and so we put in a lot of work and a lot of figuring it out. But also it was cool the way that it came about. It started on a lower like pressure thing. We were just doing it for an Australian show, that like a version show where
Triple J,
you cover a song, and so we just picked that song, and then it got a reaction, and everybody was excited about it, and then so the label was like, we should record this, we should go to radio with it, and so we did all that. It was cool the way it kind of progressed.
Yeah. It's not normally like us to like stop in the middle of like a touring kind of, a situation and go into the studio to record a cover. And we were like, this is amazing. It was super fun. We recorded it with Dan Corniff, producer who did Collide with the Sky and Misadventure. So it was really cool to just kind of go a small little taste of studio during touring.
Yeah, part of me wishes that Radiohead would return to those records, the Bends and OK Computer, just because the rock facet of what they were doing was it was so great, and those are some of my favorite rock records ever. Do you think they lost the plot when they got a little bit electronic? Or there's still some of your favorite records, like the later records, Kid A, and some of those albums?
Yeah, I just like don't tell them what to do. They do whatever they want. And like I feel like
they need to come back at this point. They've been away for so long.
Yeah, I just think they're just one of those bands. It's just I don't think they care about anything that we have to say about what they're doing. They're which I think is cool because they're just doing it for themselves, and they'll always be doing something unexpected, which I think is rad. Even if like you're not crazy about this one record or they did something a little left field, it's you never know what they're going to do next. It might be something else.
No question. Well, take me back to the beginning. You grew up in San Diego, and how did y'all meet? Early on, you did a lot of covers, I think, right? I think 90s covers were sort of in your DNA when you started playing music, right, Vic?
I mean,
we're going deep.
We used to cover, when we were on tour in the very beginning, we would cover songs to get people's attention. Yeah. Because nobody knew who our band was, so we thought maybe we could give them something to sing along to.
Especially at like festivals, trying to like get people walking by to maybe stop. Like,
that was our whole thing, like trying to just get as many people like just eyes on us, even if it was like for one song. We were like trying to just be like, just listen to us for that 1 second, and then keep walking if you need to walk. But it was kind of a challenge. I kind of took that, and the same thing when we did the tour with Blink. Like, not a lot of people know us, so like how do we stand out a little bit? So it was just kind of fun thinking with that mindset, like trying to win a crowd over.
What were those early songs that you were covering when you first started?
We would throw in like little bits of songs. Like I remember we'd like hip hop. We would do like hip hop songs, like out of nowhere, because it was kind of a thing in the scene, like in the like emo punk genre. Like there was bands were kind of into hip hop as well. So
did like a little bit of Party Like a Rock Star.
Yeah, super silly. I think
please do not YouTube these.
Yeah, it was
Are they on there?
Nobody looked this up.
Yeah, don't do it.
We did Beat It for a while. We did the whole song for that.
Yeah, we recorded a cover of Beat It at your mom's house, your parents' house.
And that's not on YouTube.
It's probably out there.
It's probably out there. Yeah. We were just like really into just doing kind of weird, quirky stuff to make us like stand out in whatever way it could have been. And I think that was just our. It was like a Warped Tour style
stuff
thing.
That we were into at the time too. Like we did Bruno Mars, Just the Way That You Are, for a Punk Goes Pop album.
We did like a small snippet of like a G6 at one
point. That one you should look up.
Yeah, but it was we just kind of made them a little bit heavier, and like I don't know, it was just kind of if they don't know our songs, they'll at least be like, oh, that's the band that did that cover or something. That was kind of our mindset. So
it's weird when you think about MySpace was sort of the first place that you started uploading music, because you think about MySpace now, it seems so foreign, right? But ultimately, that's kind of where you first started uploading songs that people started paying attention to.
Yeah, MySpace was.
What a vessel.
I was just thinking about it.
That's where I leaked a song of ours.
Oh, yeah. Tony
leaked
our song. We have a song called Kissing in Cars.
That wasn't even supposed to be.
No one was supposed to ever hear it. And Tony was just like, I like this song. I'm going to put it on my MySpace.
That was wild. Yeah.
You had your top 5 friends, and no one else mattered, and that was it, right?
Yeah, you had to know a buddy who knew how to code so that your page looked cool.
Yeah. Right. I didn't have that.
I didn't either. I could never figure it out. Like.
When did the band first start getting traction on MySpace, right? Because that was sort of the platform at the time.
I don't think we ever really did. I think that was kind of our building years still.
Yeah, because we started the band when like social media was like kind of still like it was going, but it was still like in its infancy, and it was like I remember like when Twitter like came out. Now it's X, but like I'm like, what do you mean you can just they're just telling you what they're doing right now, like these artists.
I'll never forget the first time I saw it. I saw that band, The Millionaires, that girl trio that like sings about like partying and stuff.
Yeah.
They had each of their little profiles on their MySpace, and it said, "At the airport, ready to fly to blah blah blah." And I was like,
"Is that real?
Can I go meet
like
them?"
As in like right now? That's what's happening right now. That changed. That sent my mind into, okay, this is the future of what music connection with your fans is going to be, because we've always wanted to. Our motto was like to stay connected to our fans, and we love bands that were able to accomplish that. But when that happened, I was like, oh my God, this is like, we have a direct line now.
Yeah, it was very exciting, but also terrifying at the same time.
What was that discovery process like for you early on, discovering all those bands that eventually influenced you? I mean, was it MySpace, or was it your parents, music, or what was it that got you into music early on?
My dad's a guitar player, so I had guitars around the house a lot. And then my best friend wanted to me to join his band. I didn't even really play guitar that much, and I just joined to hang out with him and
just have some friends.
I just grew from there. Just garage band stuff.
Yeah.
I was into like punk bands, and then going to shows at like the smaller venues in San Diego. Like the scene kind of grew into like hardcore and all these other things. That was like what all the local bands were doing. So that kind of evolved, and then Jaime and I started a hardcore band, and
we had a lot of friends in that scene that was just like, it was like, that was our weekend. Like Friday night, we'd go to whatever venue these bands were playing, and it was just the same like 10 dudes that would show up, and we were all like, hey, and it was just like our hangout. It was like our way of life, going to shows, being in the pit, like.
Yeah, so it's just kind of what was going on at that time was all of those types of bands.
Yeah, because this was what, like 20 or so years ago, and it was like Rocket from the Crypt and some of those bands. So who were the bands around that time period? Because there was a little bit of a scene in San Diego. I mean, obviously SDP came from there, but.
Like the local bands that were signed that we were seeing a lot at those venues, like As Lay Dying was like a bigger one at the time. And then I was a fan of Vic and his brother's band. Like that's what have turned into our current band, So I'd seen them at shows. I'd see him outside of the venue handing out CDs and like.
We were at a lot of the same shows, like without us, like like this band, like Noise Ratchet, we would like be in, like we were stage left, stage right, just like watching this show at the like smallest venue on the planet, and we were all just there before we like all knew each other.
Because there was a scene in San Diego, right?
100%.
But was it harder to attract labels to come to San Diego, or did you have to come to LA eventually to get? Didn't the record label end up flying out to San Diego to see you?
Yeah, we had trouble breaking into the LA scene because back then and still probably now, they wanted you to sell tickets, like pay to play.
Yeah.
So like they gave you like 100 tickets, and they're like, you have to sell these. And we couldn't do that in LA because we didn't know anybody there. So we had to stick to San Diego.
And even then, it was such a weird concept because I remember playing in like the Whiskey, and if you didn't sell 100 tickets, you had to literally pay the club like $2,000, and you didn't have $2,000, and if you were in a band, so what'd you do?
Yeah, totally. That's why LA seemed almost like out of reach, and so we always just stuck to San Diego, and we grew there until it got the attention of a label in New York, and they flew out and watched us play.
Because initially, Vic, you thought you might be like a graphic designer. What did y'all have to? Were you going to school for things at that point?
Yeah,
I was working at Guitar Center full time. That was how I met him. Yeah. Like I was selling him strings, and one day it was like, we're looking for a guitar player. Do you know anyone? I'm like, I play guitar actually. Like,
Tony was like the coolest looking dude I've ever seen. He had like
still
a mohawk.
Looks cool, by the way. Yeah.
He had all these tattoos. He played guitar.
That's awesome.
And I was like, hey man,
what's up?
What are you doing? You want to play a little guitar? And then
because that was when our band we stopped playing together, and I was going to school for audio production and like studio stuff. And he was like, I met these guys. They want to be in a band. They're looking for a bass player. And I'm just like, I really want to go to this, do this audio stuff. But I was like, and then we kind of like met. And I think it was just kind of like love at first sight.
But I feel like later on you were able to incorporate, I'm sure there's times where you can incorporate like graphic design into what you're doing now. Do you get involved?
Yeah, the first
100%.
T-shirts, I remember you were the designer of all the original merch.
That was great to have. I feel like every band has somebody that's like tapped into the graphic art stuff. It's really cool to like. It's just a big asset. Yeah,
it's cool in like the bigger picture thing is like when each member has like a strength of their own that they can bring to the table to a band is always. I think that helps strengthen bands. Like I would do our shirts and our album covers, and like we each had our like things, you know. Heim still does our like production, like all the behind the scenes production of like all our
Audio
live
stuff,
stuff, all our stems, everything that we I don't know, need for doing a show, we have in house right here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing.
It makes us very versatile.
I was talking to Stuart Copeland last week, who became sort of the police's manager.
You can't
You can't
just
just drop that.
Well,
Hold on 1 second, you drop this.
I was saying, like, he became the manager because most drummers, you know, I'm a drummer, and I started
Sure.
managing my bands early on because as the drummer, you're usually not writing the songs. Sometimes you do, but a lot of times the
love
drummers
that.
don't write the songs. So the drummers become the de facto managers. He was like calling up record stores, selling
Sure.
the Police's first record
That's amazing.
to the stores himself. But that seems to happen a lot as drummers. We all become like managers and agents and stuff like that. But it's great that you all had like a skill. But how did you find your voice early on? Because you definitely developed a style that really hadn't been done before. I feel like, you know, the high-pitched singing and stuff. I mean, a lot of bands were starting at that time, screamo and things like that. There was certainly a genre of music that was starting around that time. But how did you find your voice in that style?
I think that there was a time when every band was like every guy was trying to sing higher than the other. It was like it was a strange.
It's like a competition. in
It
a way.
was.
It was
yeah.
like, but no one like talked about it. It was just kind of like, we're just gonna do it.
I remember like Anthony Green from Seosin, Circus Survive. He was like the pinnacle. Like everyone wanted to sing like that guy, and I realized that I could sing high and I could hit the notes, and so I just challenged myself to try and do that. And what came of that is a couple Pierce the Veil records that are like insanely hard to sing now that I'm 42 years old.
And do you wish you sang in a lower register at this point?
Yes, I do. But you know what? You know, we did it, and it was the time, and it captured that moment, and
100%.
wouldn't change a thing. But that was kind of the vibe back then. You know, we were kind of like shooting for that style of music and a lot of energy, basically pushing your body to its extreme, like to its threshold. How hard can you sing? How high can you sing? How much of yourself can you put
How fast can you play?
into an album?
Yeah, that
I
was
think
part
that's
of it.
what our genre is really about. Is like, you know, we were bored with, you know, radio stuff and kind of, I don't know, whatever we'd been growing up on, and everyone was challenging themselves musically and vocally and everything to do something that just went all the way.
Yeah,
and
it was always like shock
that's what our
factor. I
scene
mean,
was.
even when we were like going to shows, like that was like every week we'd have a new favorite band because some band would just take it over the top, and like seeing that in the live setting, I remember just like I want to do this so bad, like I want to just take it as far as you can.
Yeah, the live setting is another thing, like pushing your body to the limit, going as hard as you can, like watching bands when they would just go off and you're a kid in the crowd watching it. You think they're the
Oh my
most
God.
crazy thing you've ever seen in your
Dude,
life.
some of our old shows were like, I don't even know how we sounded. That didn't even matter. It was just chaos, and I love the energy. It was just like the energy was always like fueling. You know, even now, like just seeing people connect. That's like the biggest thing for me personally. Like connecting with fans like on that level.
Who were those bands, you know, early on that you were listening to? Was it Bring Me the Horizon, A Day to Remember, the bands that eventually became your contemporaries that you're really looking up to and you thought, you know, these are bands we'd like to tour one day with, and eventually they became your friends?
We kind of came up with them, so I feel like the bands we were looking up to were like a little bit before that. I'm trying to think who we were into though. Like,
I mean,
Just all the hardcore band, like watching like Bane
Poison
and
the
stuff.
Well,
Poison
Bane,
the Well, yeah.
yeah.
I think as we started touring with these bands, like you said, A Day to Remember and Bring Me, and they, since we were all growing together, but they were a little bit before us, so they were the ones headlining, and we would like open for them.
Sure.
And I learned a lot touring with them. You know, 100%. You learn and you're inspired by the bands that you tour with, and they inspire songs and riffs, and specifically, I remember touring with A Day to Remember, and there would always be these crowd singing parts that would just fill the room.
Yeah.
So crazy, you would get goosebumps. Like everybody would sing at the same time, this one part, and I was like, damn, we don't have anything like that. Like our songs are so intricate and complex, and they don't tell the listener what to do when to do it. And so that was a lesson that I learned just from touring with their band. And I always think about that. So.
And what about the grunge influence? Because obviously there's a big, grunge plays a big part in the last record. So were there, obviously we talked about those bands, but some of the other bands, of course, from that scene, Nirvana, STP, Pearl Jam, were those bands sort of creeping in as part of your influences early on too?
Yeah, I mean, these guys come from a little more hardcore world. And then I grew up in a little bit more of the Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Bush, like bands like that. I was playing that kind of music in my other band, and we were covering those songs in like bars, and so I learned a lot of that stuff, and that we just kind of tapped back into that a little bit, especially for the latest record that we did, and it's just something that's in me, and then we kind of combine that with like hardcore and punk, and
I
kind of
love
creates a sound.
like Deftones, big influence.
Sure.
Rage, like just stuff like that. That was like in that kind of, I guess, vibe. But we're just like kind of looking up to those bands. Like those are like when you think of like a Deftones, like they're like legacy at that point.
Definitely.
They're always just going to be that band. So we were kind of like, how do we become that type of band? Like, what do we need to do? And I think that they're just great role models in that sense.
It's great to see a lot of those bands highly appreciated now, because I think at the time people loved them, but people discover those bands now through TikTok kids, and they're like, the Deftones, that band is 20 years old. But like,
it's
for
almost
some
like
reason there's like a discovery process now to bands like that. But talking about the Warped Tour, it's coming back this year. I don't know how you feel about that. Obviously, 2008, you guys were playing that. It was a big part of your history and your story.
Yes.
Talk to me about those days and playing the Warped Tour. I mean, it must have been incredible back
Some
then.
of the greatest days of my life.
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember doing everything we could to try and get people to our stage, whether it was like someone with a costume holding up a sign with what time we play. I used to draw in chalk like these huge, like try to replicate our logo and put the time to hope people looked down and saw it. Like,
isn't it amazing what you
anything we
have to
could.
do?
It was like,
And now you're playing MSG in the Forum.
But we were just doing anything we could think of that might get some people to walk over to the stage
We
at that
did
time.
make you do that. You would get up at like 7 a.m, go out there, write in chalk, like
Pierce the Veil.
2 p.m.
Yeah, and during
Pierce
that
the
time,
Veil.
I was like our tour manager. I remember, and like I would run and find out what time we played, and then me and Vic would go to the truck to unload our gear while you would mark what time. And we were like, it was like, it's such it like shaped us into, I think, the band.
Yeah.
That we were like hard work. We have to work hard. We have to show up on time. We have to do like. That kind of changed my life. Like,
I'll never forget the load ins, like in the morning. It's like 8 a.m. and you're with all these other band members.
Yeah.
Like they're in the band and they're all standing around the truck waiting for them to drop the thing, and we all just get in there and unload all the gear together. And it was so cool. I really loved it. I thought it was like such a great family thing, and I was like always like the little guy, so they would have me climb up the mountain of gear to pull out guitars.
I remember this.
And
I
I'm, like,
remember the
throwing them
stage
down.
manager would be like, "You guys see this? The lead singer Pierce the Veil's over there unloading the thing, like just
Selling
like
merch.
Yeah, doing
I got
whatever.
the gnarliest tan you'd ever
Oh, it was great.
imagine.
I didn't know it at the time, but like we were learning so much without even knowing it. Like how to this day, how we like run our camp, and like everything is just a very like brotherhood. Like everyone helps everyone out at all times. Like we try to. It's like it taught us a lot.
It was like rock and roll college in a way.
100%. Yeah. It's
What
like,
was the lineup that year, that first year? I think it was 2008. You were on.
2008.
who was?
God,
yeah.
you're really challenging us right now.
303 because
Oh, yeah,
we
they
shared
were
a
on.
bus with them. I think Katy Perry was
Was
on
that year?
Katy
yeah.
Perry, yeah.
Wow. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
picture her
Perry
as like
was
a
on.
Warped Tour.
Gym Class Heroes was on the
Yeah.
tour.
Oh,
I think
that
Bring
was
Me
a-
was too.
Bring Me was on.
That was like when they were kind of like
Yeah.
blowing up.
So interesting when you look back at that lineup, like certain acts made it and certain acts don't really exist today.
Yeah,
Right, in a way.
it was. But I mean, that was like we were just, I think, ecstatic that we were able to be like. I remember getting the call and being like, "This is like,
the biggest thing.
this is the biggest thing."
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I mean, I think Warped Tour had that like, it built bands, and I'm really glad it's coming back because honestly, I don't think we would be the same type of band without that tour. Like, it was, we learned so much, and it was
Yeah, we have to credit Kevin Lyman too
100%.
for believing in our band and investing in us.
What
Giving
do you
us
think about it coming back
opportunities, too.
this year? Are you feeling? I mean, do you
I'm
feel like
s-
would you go? Are you going to go check it out?
100%. I'm
Yeah.
super excited for Kevin Lyman, for the whole thing to be back. It's incredible, and also, for the fans, because I see all the time people who are like so bummed they never got to see Warped Tour. You know, kids like being like, I was 3 years old when this show happened. And now they get to kind of get a piece of that. It's cool.
Yeah.
Does it seem weird to you when you think the band's been around for almost 20 years? Is it sort of like time goes?
Well, now it's
Yeah,
weird.
it's
Now it's
very
weird.
Now that you said
It wasn't weird then.
Now that you said it, right to our face, our old faces.
It's
When you think back
Yeah.
on that first record, how do you feel about the first album? Do you listen to it and feel like I want to change this or that, or are you really happy with the way it came out?
No, I don't think I would change that first record. It was, just the time and place. You can hear it, and you can hear all the influences, and you can hear. I can picture the shows and the type of, what people were wearing. Everything. It just feels like a time capsule, and it was a very special record. That first one was even before I met you guys. I did it just with my brother, who I started the band with, and we just we spent a summer in Seattle and made that record, and I love it.
Some bands don't go back and listen to that first record, so I can't listen to it. But
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, you got to love the things you make, and I'm still. I remember being really excited about it then, and I'm still excited about it.
Definitely. Let's talk a little bit about your third record, Collide with the Sky. When you think about collaborations, is that something that you feel like you might reapproach again? Because you had a lot of collabs on that record, in particular Jason Butler, Kellen Quinn. Obviously, we'll talk about King for a Day and how that all happened for you. But do you think about collaborations in the future? I mean, is that something that you think you'd want to revisit?
Always open to it.
Yeah.
I think we approach collaborations really strictly on like, what does the song need, and not just like, hey, like, this will be really great for streaming if you guys do a collaboration. We don't we don't do it for that. We do it for whatever the song needs, and we do it organically through meeting someone that you're really inspired by, or like I just sang on Cave Town's record, and it's because I'm a big fan of his, and we met each other, we formed a relationship, and I think that it kind of has to happen in that way for us.
Yeah.
Interesting. I heard you talk about Flair, that you guys just DM'd each other, and now you guys are friends. Do you meet a lot of other musicians in that way? You guys are fans of whoever, and you DM each other, and then before you know it, you're playing each other's records?
100%. Yeah, I think, going back to the social media thing, it's such a great way to connect with people that you may not know on a personal level and stuff. Like, just randomly people will just like send, I remember the craziest one, and this is going to feel like a sweet brag, but I know that's but for me, this is a sweet brag for me, but the bass player for Limp Bizkit randomly DM'd me and saw our show at Lolla and was like, I'm so stoked for you guys. You guys are doing it right, bringing rock back to the, it was, and I'm just like, I literally had to show like 10 people that day. I'm like, what should I do? Because I'm like, I don't know the guy, but I'm like, immediately just like, I can't say enough amazing things about that band for me growing up. And I'm just like, it's just so cool. It's like so cool that stuff can happen. So.
Yeah. I mean, do you meet a lot of artists in that way? Are there other artists that you eventually toured with or that you met?
Some of them came from touring, like A Day to Remember. Like we were touring with them first, then that relationship came about. But didn't like Kellen Quinn the fans told us to do that, right?
Yeah. We have our song King for a Day was basically kind of curated by our fans. They're like, you guys need to do a song together. And we're like, I don't know him, but I should probably reach out to him.
By the way, they were right.
Yeah, they were very, thank you, fans.
Thank you, wherever you are.
But I mean, I think like these days, when we're writing the new record, I spent some time up in Seattle because I love being there and going to shows. And where our band is right now, and we've been our band for like 18 years, and I figured out this superpower that I can actually reach out to artists and we can actually meet.
Go right back to you.
Yeah, like I'll like hit up our manager and have them reach out to theirs, and then like with K-Flay, I reached out. I was like, hey, I'd like to go to her show and meet her, and it happened. They connected us and went backstage and met her, and then we became friends. And
is there like a dream collaboration list of artists that you really want to work with coming up?
I mean,
That's a great question.
I think it just is natural as it comes to us.
Yeah.
You know.
It's one of those things where, yeah, it's got to happen kind of naturally, and it's got to make sense too for us at this, at the time. So
Yeah.
we'll see, but we're always down. We're always open.
Well, talking about King for a Day for a moment, I mean, you wake up, what is it, a couple years ago, and all of a sudden this song is like blowing up again. And again, this song is, at this point, it's whatever it is, right? 10 years old, and you're like, how is this happening? Does it, when you see that and you first wake up in the morning and you get those alerts on your phone, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. I'll
That
never
was-
forget that day that, like, I think it was like when like Lizzo reposted it or something crazy. And
Yeah,
we're
does
just like,
Lizzo know our band?
It was just like, it was like just that time where I think it was, I can't remember when, but it was, I'll never forget walking down the stairs and my wife in the other room was like, holy shit. And I was like, what happened? And it was just like this thing.
Yeah.
And then even with that, I didn't know that it was going to carry even further than
Sure,
that. I was
yeah.
just like, that's crazy that person did that. I wonder if they even know what song they were using. And then
If anybody
like,
doesn't know what we're talking about, like our song, it basically went like the most viral that a viral could go.
Well, the
It
song
was-
went to number one
It
on
was
the rock charts.
yeah. Our old song just went back up to number one. It just became this trend that took off to that we couldn't control. We had
Control it, yeah.
nothing
It's
to
like
do
a
with
wa-
it.
it was like crazy,
We were just
just-
sitting at home. The band we were literally doing nothing. We were maybe
Mm-hmm.
writing a little bit. And
Well, this is during the pandemic, too.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Oh,
That's
it
right,
was.
yeah.
No,
It
nobody was
was.
doing anything.
Nobody was doing
It's a
anything.
very
right.
depressing time.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like scared for what's going on. And
Right.
this
Everybody's
little,
afraid to touch a tree. 'cause
Yeah,
you
this
could die.
and then this little thing. Yeah, I wasn't touching any trees. Yeah,
Well, I would wipe down my groceries and think, like, is this cereal box really going to kill me?
yeah.
Right. You're like,
wild.
yes. The
What a
answer
time.
is yes.
What a time to be alive. Yeah.
So you end up, the song ends up just out of nowhere kind of blowing up. What was it? What was that impetus of like that song kind of just exploding on social like that? Was it Lizzo or kind of out of the start?
There was a lot of moments I think where it was like, oh, there's a lot of kids are reposting this. That's
Yeah.
cool. And then it just kind of didn't stop. It kind of just. I think the Lizzo thing threw it over the top because she was like, everyone knew her stuff, and it was like.
Dude,
It was
I
crazy.
was more impressed by like it was a couple different trends. It kind of morphed, like it became like a hair and makeup kind of trend, like like a glow up out of nowhere trend thing. And then, but before that, it was like kids in their bedrooms pretending they were rock stars, and they had this like they would hang like a hairbrush from the ceiling, and they'd be singing into it, and all their friends would have
Lights
little like
and
their
flashing
phone
lights and
lights
stuff.
and they would just go nuts in their living room or in their bedrooms. That to me was, I think, the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Was just
There was one guy in his car who did an incredible rendition. He did like all the like the vocal parts. I don't know if you saw that
No,
one.
that's
This one,
amazing.
I should
Yeah.
send it to one of you. It's incredible. But did the process change from the way you make records now to a record like that? Obviously, you just mentioned being in Seattle and taking some time, kind of being in alone time. I would imagine. And I think you rent houses sometimes and kind of go like an hour outside of San Diego just to get away. I would imagine,
Yes.
right?
yes. That I still love doing that.
Yeah.
I love to, get out of our everyday,
Comfort zone, yeah.
just stimulate your brain, like get you looking at different things, different places, and it's just like searching for inspiration, like constantly, because sometimes you sit in your studio that you've had and you're just like staring at the walls and you don't know where the song's going to come from, so you got to kind of do something, to get it going.
And with this latest record, you decided to change the team, work with a different producer. Well, you guys were all fans of Mute Math, I assume, right?
100%.
Love
Yeah.
Mute Math, yeah. We worked with Paul Meany from Mute Math, and he, more so, I think we were really impressed what he had done with 21 Pilots, and I thought that they were a really cool like sounding band that had rock elements and
we just love their trajectory of how they like built and stuff, their career, and looked up to them and really appreciated Paul Meany jumping on board and being like also an artist. He was an artist in Mute Math, and that really kind of pushed us. He pushed us a lot to explore the space, if you will. It was a cool experience. Plus, we got to go to New Orleans and do it all in a house right on Royal Street, which was really cool.
yeah.
I love the stories behind a lot of the songs. You talked to me about a song like Past and Nirvana and the meaning behind a song like that. Obviously, there's a heavy grunge influence there, but what were you thinking lyrically when you got into a song like that?
I was thinking about the youth of America going through COVID and how fucking hard it must have been for them because I'm I was in my like, I guess 30s, late 30s, 40s, like at the time. So it's like, but they're in their like, they're teenagers and 20s, and like they're like, life is hard enough, and then they get this shit thrown at them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I just felt for them.
Yeah.
I was like, and I live next to a college, and I would hear them partying and stuff, and I'd be like, yes, let loose, like do whatever makes you feel good right now. And that was kind of like, I don't know, my mindset when that was happening.
Were you drawing from different inspirations for a record like this, like Silverchair? I heard you mention Silverchair, another band, kind of underrated band that, mini Nirvana in a way, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah. That song in particular was pulling from like Refused, Beck, like even a little bit, all kinds of different things were in that song. It's a very strange song, and it was really hard to figure out.
Yeah.
But we
powered through
got
it.
it. Yeah, we powered through
yeah,
it.
we
We made it
figured,
happen.
we figured out like 100 different ways to play that
To
song.
not do
To
it.
not play the chorus?
To not play that, right? Yeah, we finally figured it out.
what was it like recording in New Orleans? Any ghosts in the studio? Anything weird happened? in
We
New
thought there
Orleans?
was at first.
I'm out of here.
Figured out it was a train that was shaking the house.
So in the mornings,
I don't know.
You don't think it was a
this
train?
is this
I'm
is my
hoping it was a
theory.
train.
I'm hoping it was a train in the
Tell
mornings.
them what was happening.
What was happening
So
exactly?
in the morning, we all had our own little bedrooms and stuff, and I'll never forget this because I'm terrified of stuff that I don't understand. So it was the bed will just start to shake slowly, and I'm just like, am I losing my mind? What's
It was
happening?
as if somebody was at the foot of your bed going like this.
yeah.
Just
to your
wobbling
bed.
it.
And then I got up and I immediately ran to Tony's room because his was right next to mine, and I was just like, dude, was your bed shaking? And he's like, I think so. I couldn't tell. And we like just lived in this house.
See, I would have moved out right away.
100%. And I'm like already like, and there's, there's just a bunch of creepy stuff and it just freaked me out. And then I think we assumed that it was a train going by that was shaking the house, but
It's like a half a mile away.
a half a
We're just
mile away.
far
And
away
mind you, nothing else in the house shook, just the bed. And then Vic was like, I don't think it's a train, man. And
So it was really haunted.
who
It
knows?
could have been.
I don't know. I don't like to think about it.
Old house in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the French Quarter.
A lot of history there.
I know one of the Nine Inch Nails records, they were saying the studio was haunted, but that was not the studio that you recorded in, I don't think.
No, I mean we recorded most of it in the house.
Yeah.
And then
I think the
we
drums
did
were done
drums
at
at
Marnie.
Marnie Studios.
Marnie Studios, yeah.
Um,
Just like down the
down the street.
It was
And,
great.
yeah, so but we did most of it just in the living room.
Didn't you write for a while in a house that was haunted?
Oh,
was it
Herrera's
Seattle?
house.
I wrote in up in Seattle, across the sound. There's a city called Bremerton, and Mike Herrera owns a house that's just for music, and they record stuff, they practice there. It's this amazing.
Mike from MXPX.
Yes, yeah, it's this really cool thing they got going on there, and he let me stay there for a couple months, and I was there by myself a lot, and there was like a framed suicide note of a guy who committed suicide in that home.
Nice uplifting
It
thing.
really,
to
I
just have
love
in
that
your
they,
living
I
room.
love that they
Really?
hung it on the wall,
Yeah.
and
Jesus.
it was creepy in there, but
You think?
It sounds.
but it was, I don't know.
Didn't
It
you
was-
guys like that? Wasn't there like a name like that? You guys like?
he had a name. Yeah, I forget, like Phil or something like that.
Yeah.
But I always go into new houses, and I sort of like make my introduction. You
make your peace with
I
it.
do. I kind of like introduce myself to the house. Like, I don't know why I do this, but I think it's so that I can be alone and not
Yeah.
drive myself crazy. I'd like be like, hey, house, I'm here.
Thanks for your offering.
I thank you. I'm here to just create.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, and I put that good energy into the home when I first get there. So then I feel okay for the
Didn't
rest
like
of the
Mike
trip.
mention that there was like he's like, oh, the ghost is here. He's Jill.
Yeah, he says things happen
Yeah.
like that. And,
He's like, he's cool. He's a cool ghost. Like what?
yeah.
They always say like never meet your idols. You end up working with all these artists that you idolized growing
Mm-hmm.
up. I remember, I imagine MXPX was a band that you guys all loved. I mean, how do
yeah.
you feel when you meet a lot of these artists? Are you ever disappointed, or you're like, this was the coolest artist I ever met? I mean, we all have those stories, right? Like I met Lou Reed once, and he was an asshole. So it is
Yeah.
Nice.
But But he wasn't known for being a nice guy. So,
That's the
I don't
thing.
know what I was expecting.
That's
but,
an interesting thing that you just said. It's like when the person is already known for being a dick and you meet them and they're a dick.
Or
and
they're
you're like,
nice, which is always like nice.
or the opposite. And you're like, that was just how I thought it was going to go.
I think when we all first met, like Blink, I think that for me was like, I'm like, okay, these guys are hilarious and they say wild shit on stage. And then you see them off stage, and you're just like, you have this like kind
They're
of
not
persona.
funny off stage, or are they?
But
funny?
no,
funny.
but then they literally are just the same exactly like you would expect. Like randomly, like Mark Hoppus would just walk into our green room and like hold court. Like everybody would just stop what they're doing and sit down around him, and he would just like sit down and he just like
tell stories.
You know,
He's
what
so
do you,
dry too.
Yeah.
Like I remember when you first met him, we had met his wife already, and you're like, "Oh, I met your wife." Really? He's like, "What the fuck's that supposed to mean?"
Yeah. And I'm like, whoa. It was really funny. He's just. I mean, they're just all characters, and I think that was a really pleasant, not surprise, but like it was just really cool to see that and how nice they were to us, and it was awesome.
How are you feeling about touring at this point? You actually there's dates that just got released for like the Forum and MSG, which is pretty incredible. Woo! Amazing, right? To think about all that stuff going on. Are you feeling? Is touring your favorite part of this, or do you love the studio more?
I think touring is like the like celebration of the reward.
We always say that.
The treat that you get for working so hard on something. You're like, all right, you get to stop like stressing and working on this thing that is like driving you like
Part of
to the brink of insanity, and then now you get to go and see the world and see your fans and
very cool
sing songs.
I was gonna say part of our motivation was we had posters printed out of our fans at shows that we had played. So we had
of
those
your fans.
Yeah, so we had those up
went to
in the
Kinko's.
house, and when we were recording this recent record, that's what we had on our
Amazing.
studio.
Yeah, we had all these really cool crowd shots from photographers that we've worked with over the years, and just amazing shows that we played, and every once in a while there's just like a rad shot of the crowd. So we would like print that out and be like, hey, remember this is where you're gonna be in like about a year. And remember that you're going to be on stage, and what do you want to be playing? You
have this incredible relationship with your fans. You're just mentioning, like, even King for a Day came about because of your fans. Do you ever get any strange gifts from the fans, like anything, tattoos or weird things that you're like,
no, never, not once.
This is the weirdest
That's
thing.
never happened.
That's never happened ever.
What's the weirdest thing a fan ever gave you?
Oh God. Weirdest.
Because they're weird.
I don't even want to say because then I don't want to get the same gift again and again. I mentioned I like
Was
goldfish
it a steak knife
one
or
time.
something?
There's people that have like our signatures. That's not weird. That's pretty flattering.
Right.
Like that's
Like
pretty.
tattoos
That's
and
commitment.
whatnot.
Yeah.
God.
It's all just honestly, it's all just really like it's like really cool, flattering stuff. Like artwork is always really nice. Like I think that is a really cool way to like express. They're just such amazing artists, and you're seeing this stuff.
Vic mentioned he liked Nutella once, and we had drawers and drawers full of it on our bus because it just kept.
I think I mentioned
I no longer
I
like it.
hot Cheetos, and it's like the whole green room was filled with hot Cheetos, and we're like, oh my god, all right, appreciate it. What are we gonna do with all these hot Cheetos?
Yeah.
When you think about, again, playing the Forum and MSG, is it like, you feel like you're at the pinnacle now? Because this is what every band works up to playing. You just announced this tour. It's 46 dates, kicking off fairly soon. But this is it, right? The Forum in LA for you, that's the biggest. You can't get bigger than that. I mean, you could play Giant Stadium, whatever it may be. But this is really at the top, right? Top of the game for you, I'd say.
It's incredible. It is mind-blowing that we were able to... our band is able to play these places.
Yeah.
Like you would.
I was nervous when our agent brought up the Forum in the beginning. I'm like, holy, this is like such an iconic venue. Let alone adding another date and then adding I was like, this isn't real life.
And Madison Square Garden, right?
And Red Rocks, like things like that I never thought this band would even come close to. It's like it's so amazing, and it's just it's just our fans, new and old. It's incredible that they are building this thing, and it's awesome.
It's weird thing about Red Rocks, I got to play there once, and I didn't know that they give you like this oxygen tank because you can't really breathe up there. It's like
elevation,
And so
we've never played. We've never been there. Like I just heard nothing but amazing things.
It's amazing. I mean, it looks amazing, but I also couldn't breathe, so it was a bit weird. You're like, you can't fully enjoy it if there's like an oxygen tank next to you. 100%. You're trying to breathe through this thing, but it's incredible.
We've been lucky enough to play some wild.
If we can play
elevation.
Mexico City,
yeah, we play Mexico. Actually, when we played Colombia, I think it was like 9,000 feet.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
That'll test you.
Yeah, that'll get you.
That'll test you. You're like, I wish these songs were lower.
Is the Forum the gig that you're most excited about, would you say? Or is it MSG or is it Red Rocks?
I think all three of those, that combination of those shows, and I mean, I could play those shows and be content.
I'm also excited for like Chicago. I think is like at 22,000 people or something like that. It's gonna be.
I can't
nuts.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I had always dreamed of playing Red Rocks. I sort of thought that they don't host bands like us. But then I started seeing some of our peers doing it, and it was starting to break through this wall. And then I was like, oh, maybe there's hope that we could do it someday. And I was just like, oh, it's just like a lot of seats and stuff. I don't know if that really works for us.
A lot of seats.
They're just gonna be watching us.
No mosh pit. Or
Yeah, but now we're here. I can't believe it. I mean, I think I'm going to try and get my parents to come out.
Yeah, I was going to say,
our friends are already flying out for it.
I think the MSG, the weight of that statement, like we're playing MSG. You know, my parents were like, "Whoa, I know that venue. I've seen it in movies."
Like, I finally love you.
Yeah, I finally approve.
Is the Forum 3 nights? I have here like June 26th, 27th, July 1st. 3 nights at the Forum. That's incredible when you think about that.
It's
wild.
insane.
We made like an audible call, like once the first two sold out, and they were like,
we were like on our phone. I remember being like, my phone just didn't stop. Like it was just nonstop because things were happening so fast. They're just like, all right, the first one's gone. We have the second one ready to go. Are you guys good to go? And we're like, I think so. What's happening? And then literally 5 minutes later, all right, we have to make a decision
you're
here.
questioning like everything in your existence. Like
I was pacing around my house, like on the phone, being like, "What are we gonna do? Like, do we want to do? Like, is it okay? Like,
then it's
can we
LA, so
even do
can
this?
we even do a third night? Are you guys nuts? Like,
Well, it's LA, so then everybody wants to be on the guest list, right? You'll
Sure.
start to get a barrage.
Yeah,
the
the first
first
show is just all
the
guests.
first show is only guest list. Yeah.
I know it's in 6 months, but I need 19 tickets.
Yeah.
Right? It's like one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the show, we do these really fun lists, these top 5 lists that a lot of people debate for hours. So I want to talk to you about your top 5 rock albums of all time.
Oh, baby.
God.
Starting
That's
with
so
number
tough.
5. And we can do no particular order. We could do starting with number 5, but I know you're all real passionate about certain bands. So.
I might throw one in just because we warmed up to it every night, and it was Saves the Day,
Oh yeah.
Through Being Cool.
Through Being Cool is up there for sure.
That
That's your
was
number 5,
for
Tony.
years, so I'm gonna put that in there in the mix.
In the mix.
It's got to be
Yeah,
there.
I'm not gonna hear me complain about that.
Anybody got a number 4?
I'll throw.
Throw a little like classic in there, you know.
Okay.
I have an obscure. Well, it's not really obscure, but
Yeah.
I know this album changed a lot of our minds.
Queen, A Night at the Opera.
Yeah,
Incredible band.
That's a
Yeah.
classic.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Can't argue with Queen.
Yeah, that's
Or
why I
Freddie
said
Mercury.
it. So nobody
Yeah,
could,
I think that
nobody
should have
would
been
look at
like
me
that
weird.
probably should have been like top 3, but okay, we'll give it 4.
Queen.
Yeah,
Top that.
Ever heard of it? I was gonna say Thrice.
Ooh,
The
now we're
illusion of safety. I think
Yeah.
that album I think changed.
Bryce, just know
We
that
love
we
you.
love you.
We love you so
That's
much.
always.
You
just
really
send
did.
that. If anyone could send this to them, just,
Yeah, you guys are really. Yeah, no, that record just. I mean, I think that when that came out,
if you ever hear us rip off any of your riffs in any way, we apologize.
Yeah.
It's just it's gonna happen.
yeah,
Paying
it's
homage to Thrice.
for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah,
Number
that
two.
album. We're on number 2.
We're at number 2 already.
I
Yeah.
already know my number 1, but I don't want
But
to.
we're still got number
You
2.
got a
to
number
cover.
Yeah,
two?
so we
I
stopped
like-
at number 2.
I gotta say, I want to say like a Deftones album.
Why not?
Yeah.
This is your list, Jaime.
Well,
Or someone's list.
is it?
Yeah.
Is it? I know you were probably gonna say like Around the Fur. I like White Pony.
Okay,
What do you think?
that's a
twofer.
This isn't. I can't tell you what your favorite record is. That's-
White
I'm
Pony.
excited
gonna
to
put
hear number 1.
Yeah, I'll
Why-
put White Pony on there.
Okay,
That's an awesome album.
my
Your
number
number
1.
1 rock record of all time. I know it's a tough choice, but
It's not tough for me at all.
Whitney
No,
Houston.
tough for you. Okay.
no. Third Eye Blind, self-titled.
Amazing.
That's a great album.
Still go back to it.
Yeah.
Still inspired by it. And
Sonically sounds amazing.
to drop another name, the drummer played
Plays
on
with
our, Brad Hargraves played on our
Played on the
new
record.
record.
Jaws
Yeah.
of Life.
And that was
Incredible.
the pinnacle of my life. And now I'm done.
Amazing.
Tell you what, when he wrote
It's all
that,
just smooth sailing from here.
he wrote that little note. I still have it in my studio. He wrote a little note because we were like jamming the songs out. We like recorded it at the same time, kind of, and he just wrote a little note to my rhythm brother, Thanks for
Amazing.
jamming
And
with
that's
me.
framed on your wall.
Oh,
And you got it
100%.
tattooed.
Not unlike the
It's
suicide.
it's on my butt. Yeah. just Brad, your name is on my butt.
In his handwriting.
Yeah, that's great.
And Vic, you're a big film buff, I assume, right? I think I know that you're a big film
He
buff.
knows how to watch movies really well.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it. Yeah.
You're like,
Do you guys have a list of your top 5 films ever of all time?
I have a number 5.
All right. Tony, I love this. Like,
You're-
I
yeah.
like number
He
5.
starts-
starting
he
It's
it
starts-
out.
funny though. It's
You get
Forrest
the ball
Gump. I
rolling.
feel like
Oh,
Forrest Gump has
so
to be in there.
good. 100%.
At least for him and I.
100%. We quote that a lot.
Which
A
one?
lot. Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
It's
yeah,
a great
film.
It's a great film.
We played a show once. We have talkback microphones on stage, so we can all talk to each other in between and during songs.
Without anyone else knowing.
And they're meant for when things go wrong and like, you know, I need a new guitar, I broke a string.
It's
blah,
normally
blah.
me. Something broke on my
But
end.
we also just talk a lot of shit in them and like make jokes to make our show feel
While
like
you're on stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
When things are going right,
And
we
mind you,
still
no
gotta
one,
use
no
it.
one can hear this but us.
Right.
So you think like when the lights go down and we go get a sip of water, like nothing's happening. Oh, there's a lot of stuff happening.
like there was one show where in between every song they were doing Forrest Gump quotes. So like
Yeah.
we were in the song and I would be
100%.
like
People only knew what was going on behind
Yeah.
the scenes. right?
Lieutenant Dan ice cream.
Lieutenant Dan ice cream. Yeah.
So that's number 5.
Movies. Let's see. God, I'm actually not really a movie buff, but I have my
I watch like
my
the
little
same
handful of
I watch the
faves.
same 5 bad movies like all the time. I got to put just anything with Jim Carrey, like
Yeah.
Ace Ventura,
That works.
Sure.
Okay.
incredible.
Sure.
Dumb and Dumber, incredible. Like
Yeah,
Liar
yeah.
Liar, incredible. That guy had a run.
I
I'll tell you
always
what.
loved. So what number are we on now?
I guess technically we're on
we-
3.
we have
I mean,
3.
4 is taken up by
Yeah.
3 Jim Carrey movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, just number 4, Ace Ventura, the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with
Okay.
it.
I always loved the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio.
a
That
good
was
one.
like
Great film.
that. We even did one time on our early touring, we did a set production that was like inspired by that movie,
Yeah.
and we had everything was all like
Very nice.
Catholic, but with like guns, and it was all like I don't know, like that aesthetic. You know,
was
it was
cool.
very that movie. I know it was really cool.
Great film.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Numero dos.
So many-
What do you
Tony
got?
has a lot of things in his back
I
pocket.
keep trying to
always
think of
just,
stuff that
on
we
tour,
like
we
watch
always
together.
have,
I know.
like-
I know what you guys like.
I
It's
know,
like,
but they're
I
not.
can-
They're not fun. Yeah, they're fun. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they are.
We're on number 2 right now.
We're on number 2, yeah.
You guys would say
On the
like,
last tour, we watched Moneyball probably more than any other movie.
Yeah,
So-
you made our tour manager watch it a bunch.
Yeah, she loved it. It was great. We had a great time. Baseball. It was a very baseball-esque vibe. So I'll say Moneyball. That's
Yeah.
a good
Number 2.
vibe.
Yeah, I
Number
think you
one.
forced that one on people.
I did force it. Yeah, better than Con Air, I guess.
I thought you were going to say that earlier. To be
I did.
honest.
Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, now we're on number 1.
Does anyone have a top 5 film, number 1,
My-
best film ever?
Can I throw the number one in again?
Yeah, throw it
Sorry,
in.
Is it-
I
it's
keep
all you.
taking that
Are you gonna do?
place.
Is it gonna be something
it.
just like classic?
No, it's Wayne's World.
oh my
Oh,
god!
there we
Of
go.
course.
Yeah.
I love it.
100%. That's a great one.
We named
That's
the song
awesome.
after
Yeah.
a Wayne's World quote.
Yeah.
And last but not least, because we spoke about your incredible cover of Karma Please, I wanted to ask you your top 5 Radiohead songs of all time.
Oh shit.
I mean, this is a hard list because there's so many great songs, but you're a band that loves Radiohead, so
I do.
why not dive into it?
You know, I
want to say let's put Creep like at 5.
I
'cause
like
I feel
that,
like everyone's gonna say that.
Mine
one's
is
like,
Idiotech, if that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
I've always
okay.
wondered about. Like that's one of my favorite ones. It's
Great
such
track.
such a cool song.
I think Paranoid Android is I think it's one of the it's in my top 5 of like the most epic songs ever written.
I
like
agree with you, yeah.
like songs that can be really long but you don't even care because like you're
It's
just
just
on
a
this
vibe,
ride. God.
I don't even know the names to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm like, what's the one that goes?
Yeah,
I
I'm
may have
not
just butchered
I'm
the
not
way it's
actually
pronounced
like like in. I don't know all their songs.
Are we
like
putting Karma Police in there?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
I feel like
Karma
that-
Police is
yeah.
in there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll admit for sure I don't know all their albums. I just like I know a few songs here and there that I think are just.
I know there's a
mind-blowing.
lot of people that are gonna watch this and be very upset with us.
Is
That's
there a
fine, that's
favorite?
fine.
Do you have a favorite Radiohead song?
That was my favorite.
Oh, that's your
That
favorite.
one,
Idiotech, yeah.
I mean, Creep. I love that song, but it's so
It's
cliche.
an incredible song. It's
so
cliche,
good.
but it's, you know, a
the
great
dy-
song is a great
Cliche
song.
Sonically,
is
I think
good.
that song is perfect. It's
Yeah.
the dynamics in that song, like from like a mixing, everything is just. I love that song. So that's
Definitely.
mine. I don't know.
Sure.
I know that's pretty.
Karma's mine for sure.
Yeah, it works.
I tried to learn it on piano. I have a piano in my house, and piano for some reason is just it. I can't get it. I don't know why. Like I can write things on it, you know, and make noises on it, but like every time I try to like really learn,
That's not saying much, dude. You have to press the key. It makes noise.
but try and learn. I was like, during COVID, I was like, I'm gonna learn how to play
Piano.
Karma Police on piano, and I practiced every day, and every time it was hard. Like it never got easier for me. I don't
That's
know.
so funny.
Well, kicking off May 13th, you might actually hear Karma Police. You're playing everywhere. I think it's a 46-date tour. And,
18th month world tour.
North America, Europe, Latin America, 3 nights at the Forum. Incredible. MSG. I'll come out to one of the shows. Definitely want to hang with you guys at one of the
Please.
shows. This has been fun. And thanks for coming from San Diego on the plane.
Of course, yeah.
It's great to have you guys here. We'll do a part 2 soon.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for
great.
coming, guys. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
Thanks
to
for
see you.
having us.